Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Wholehearted Journey. My name is Meredith Hudson, and today's episode is going to be something straight from my heart because honestly, I have tried to redo this episode a lot of times because when we're talking about Jesus, y'all, I mean, there's a million things that I have to say about the King of all kings and the way that he has really worked in my life and the way that I feel just like it's completely changed who I am in so many ways. But I really want to use this episode to kind of talk about the starting of my walk, my testimony, and kind of when I had this transition, if you will. I hope that for those who are listening to this, that y'all really see yourselves in it. I want this to be something that really speaks to y'all's hearts. Whether you are someone that is walking with Christ right now, building in your faith, building in that relationship, and you're kind of actively, where I'm at, or you're someone that maybe was Christian at one point and that's kind of just faded away. And, there's this massive, just distance between you and him, but here lately you've been feeling it really heavy on your heart. I will say I've had so many discussions with so many incredible women here recently, kind of sharing very similar testimonies of, hey, I grew up in a situation where God was kind of used as a weapon, and it has warped my view of Christians, and it has drastically changed, my want and desire to know him. And I'm going to have an entire episode for that because there's so much to that. And that's kind of something that I've been actively just talking with so many beautiful women on, and us kind of just sharing back and forth, stories and discussions and so forth. But to make things so simple here, y'all, my life has changed because for the first time in my life, I stopped listening to the world on how I was supposed to love Jesus and how I was supposed to be as a Christian. And I, for the very first time, opened up the Bible and I said, you know what? I am ready to know you. I am ready to love you. Please lead me to you. And I had no idea what to expect when I started this. I was curious. I came with a curious mind. I wanted to know the stories because at that point I knew nothing, to be honest. I knew that Jesus died on the cross. I knew a few little things here and there, but I was so uneducated on kind of the entire Bible. Sadly, and I know that sounds very confusing because, I grew up Christian my entire life. I went to church and it was very hit or miss. I would not say I was your girl that was in church, every Sunday. My poor mom, she tried, but and I'm sure my mothers here maybe can have, maybe similar situations here with their kiddos. And now looking back, as a child that kind of did this, I feel really, bad about it. And I hate that this was what happened, but I do believe that there was definitely a reason in the way that God has decided to, work within me, and kind of the start of our relationship truly being, the time of my life now. But just like every person that gets to this point in their, relationship with Jesus, is that my only regret is that I didn't get to truly know him sooner. And it's so true. It's so true because my life has changed. I've never felt so much peace and joy and love in my life. It's like I have new eyes. And it's like I got a whole new brain. I don't even know how to explain it. But it's like I'm rewired. And I do feel like a completely different person. And it's so consuming. And it's so crazy that I really don't even know how to explain it. But, growing up, I really struggled to want to go to church, and obviously while I was at church, I really did not pay attention because I did not know much about the Bible. At 30 years old, I could barely tell you anything about it. But yet I was someone that would, listen to a Christian song here and there, or would read a scripture or send over a scripture to a friend, or gosh, I'm sure at one point I put little Bible verses on my profile pictures on MySpace, okay? I'm just going to be completely transparent. That was me, and that's what I thought being a Christian was if I just believe that that's really it. That's as good as it's going to get. If I just believe, then that's as good as it gets. But I was so far from understanding the truth. You can believe in anything. And that's kind of just like this thing that I've come to realize, that you can believe in anything. But when there is a vast difference from believing in someone versus loving someone. And where I could start with this is that when I was in my 20s, that's when I started my weight loss journey. That was kind of my very first step towards changing my life. You know, before my journey, I struggled really bad financially. I struggled, you know, obviously with my health, my mental health, and, you know, I did not like my job. I loved my clients, but I did not like my job. And I was so lost. I was like, my goodness, I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy in a sense of like, I don't want this to be forever. I want my life to change in every area outside of my marriage. But I want my life to change. And so when I started my journey, that was like the transitional period, if you will. So I go through all that journey. I, you know, lose 120 pounds and, you know, I feel a lot better. My mental health is a lot better, but I'm still wanting to chase more. I'm still in this like financial struggle. I'm still, you know, battling to make ends meet, battling to put food on the table. Our house that, you know, me and my husband were living in, we constantly were having to reach out to family to, you know, have some assistance in helping us pay our water bill and, you know, just to kind of make ends meet. We would have, every time it rained, y'all, I had like 5 huge trash cans that I had to put all around the house because our roof needed to be completely redone. You could turn off the lights in this house and you would see the sun kind of coming in a million different directions. So anyways, the house probably needed to just be tore down, but it was the only thing that we could actually afford at this time and so forth. So I'm actually going to make an episode talking about kind of what that looked like and the transition into everything, because it's actually a fascinating story. But anyways, at that point in time, I was thinking to myself, okay, I feel better, but I'm still not satisfied. I still want more and more and more. Maybe if my financial situation changes, then I'll feel, you know, fulfilled. And so I put all my money, kind of racked up more of my credit cards, and I started my business with hopes that this would drastically change, you know, me and my husband's financial situation. And it did. And it didn't just do it. It literally did it in like a week. Like my program blasted in 1 week, and from there, you know, it just continued to bless us. And so as I'm actively going through this, I'm like, I feel like this is like, you know, so amazing and so forth, but I still feel a little bit unsatisfied. Like I'm almost like craving more. So then I started talking, like kind of like looking at my body, and I'm kind of picking it apart, and I had this loose skin, and I'm like, well, maybe if I didn't have this loose skin that kind of just like attaches my past still to my now and my future, maybe I will feel, you know, finally full. And so I, you know, get 2 pounds of loose skin removed on my stomach, my boobs. I got my boobs done because those girlies were RIP'd. RIP. Let me just say that. I wanted to avoid at all costs, but I can't even go into detail about what that looked like. I will be honest. It's like, think of 2 hanging asparagus. Like if you bent over, that's what it looked like. So trust me, I wanted to avoid it, but that's just what happened. So anyways, so I get the surgery, and as I'm actively recovering from it, I'm thinking to myself, wow, like I still feel like unfulfilled. I still feel unsatisfied. And what I'm trying to get at, because this can go on, is that every time I had this massive thing that I could have sworn would bring me happiness, and when it finally happened, and the unbelievable, literally the impossible would happen, because these things are almost like unbelievable. It simply like seems like impossible to think about how this actually happened in so many different areas of my life. But every time I gained something, I was still left unsatisfied. And I know that sounds so like ungrateful. I know that sounds so just kind of disturbing, to be honest. And I hate even admitting it. But this is why this is my testimony, and I need to be honest about it. It didn't make sense to me. I didn't get it. I felt so shameful for it. I was disgusted in myself. It was hard for me to look in the mirror and know that so many things, all the things that I've ever wanted have came true, but yet I'm still sitting here left unsatisfied. And it was in that moment where I looked at everything, and I looked at my life, my husband, my house, my career, my health and all these things. And I'm just like, why am I not the happiest I've ever been in my entire life? Why do I feel so empty? I have it all. What is going on? And it was in that moment that I realized that I did not have it all. I actually had nothing, because I didn't have Christ. I didn't have God. And that's when it hit me, and I broke down. And I knew that it was like it finally all made sense to me. And although I didn't understand it, at the same time, it was like I felt the Holy Spirit so much in my body that it was for full certainty that was why I was feeling this way. So I opened up the Bible. I told myself, all right, you're going to read the Bible every single day. You're going to stay committed. You're going to journal. I bought so many journals and certain books and certain things, and I'm doing it, and I'm starting it. And then, 2 days would go by, and then I would forget to do it. And then months would go by without doing it at all. So then again, I would feel empty. I'd feel just like, so lost. And I'm like, wow, Meredith, you're not doing the thing that you said you were going to do. Get on it. Start doing it. So I would open up the Bible again, and it would repeat. And finally, I sat there with myself and I said, why is this not working? Why am I not staying consistent with this? I know that this is why I feel at loss. I know that I am unsatisfied because I don't have this relationship with Christ. But why is it so hard to start this? Why is it so hard to be consistent in the Bible? Why am I struggling with praying? And why is it when I am praying, I feel so disconnected from him? It's like he's not even there. And it's like I'm talking to myself, or I'm thinking about something else as I'm actively praying. What is happening? In that moment, I kind of just stopped this mental spiral that's going on in my head, and I sat in stillness. And I said, it's because I was going about it all in the wrong way. It was too technical. It was too planned out. It was too by the book. And so I sat there and I said, okay, why am I overcomplicating this? The whole point of what I need to do is just have a relationship with him. So let me break down what having a relationship means. Having a relationship means just getting to know someone. You can't love someone. You can't have a relationship with someone if you don't know them. But I need to know him. And that's when I had this click moment of, well, I'm always on my computer. And I love using Notions. I'm on Notions every single day. This is how I manage my team. This is how I manage my to-do list, literally everything. So I'm like, maybe if I use a thing in Notions and I create something in Notions and I almost just use this as a journal, that would be a good place to start. I don't know. We'll try it out. And then I really discovered the Bible recap. And the Bible recap is basically, it has, you read the Bible in 1 year, but you don't have to do it in a year. It's just kind of what it is, but you can read the Bible in a year. And each day has basically passages and stuff that you read. After you read those passages, then there's a video of Tara Lee Cobbles, who is my girl, who breaks down what you just read. And she helps you see God in everything. And she just breaks it down so easy for you to understand, which is what I needed because I was so lost. I was so disconnected, and where to even start, how to even understand it. I would read something and be like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So it helped me drastically. And so that was when finally, for the very first time, I was actually starting to build a relationship with Jesus. I was going into these scriptures and I was reading it, and I was like highlighting certain scripture parts and putting it into my notions and into my little journal pad, if you will. And then I would watch the video and I would kind of write down what she said. And then I would go into just actually breaking things down and then seeing how this could apply into my life and help me with understanding him more. Does that make sense? I know that sounds very confusing, but if there was something that I didn't understand or that I was still lost in, I would look it up and then I would write it down. And so it was almost like I was studying versus just reading. And studying for me and breaking things down and looking it up and just writing down my overall thoughts, and also breaking down where I saw myself in certain things of, like, for instance, when I would read something about the way that you should love someone, I'd want to write that down and be like, do I love people this way? Is this how I show love to my friends, to my neighbors, to my husband? And if I don't, what are some ways that I can do to kind of change that? How could I show up for my husband in a more intentional, loving way? How can I sit there and be there for my parents more? And so forth. And that's kind of what I did. And everything started slowly clicking and everything started making sense. And then I started praying more consistently. And then I started wanting to listen to more worship music. And then I wanted to start changing what I was watching. And then all of a sudden now I'm wanting to change what I wear. And now I'm just a completely different person. It's like then my mind changed, my eyes changed, my heart changed. And finally, I felt him. I felt his spirit. And so what I hope that I'm not totally butchering right now is that I always thought that in order to be a true Christian, you have to do all the right things, but that's really not what it is. That's not what brings you closer to God. That's not what builds that relationship with Jesus. It's getting to know him and him moving through you. And when he moves through you, everything else falls in line. It's not that you are intentionally basically doing it. It's that your heart is leading you to, and your actions just represent your now desires and your now wants, because everything just feels different. I can't listen to music, in the same way. It's like everything that used to be so blurred or like I didn't recognize or anything, I now hear, and it's like screaming in my ear. When I watch TV now, it's like I'm not just sitting there watching TV. It's like I'm watching something that hurts me. Like I feel physical pain, right? And it makes me sad. And it just affects me. And it makes me want to jump off the couch and run out of the room. When someone upsets me or someone attacks me, my instant response isn't to attack them back or be negatively impacted by it, but yet it makes me feel remorse and want to pour into them more. It makes me want to give them love. It makes me want to bring them joy, even though that they hurt me and they attacked me. I'm not taking it as a personal thing. I am literally sitting there saying, please let me love you. Please let me give you joy. Please let me bring you peace. And I'm praying for them and I'm doing these things. And this isn't me saying that I'm this amazing person. That's not what this is. What I am actively trying to describe, that I really hope I'm doing okay on, is that you naturally change. It's not that you are forcing yourself to. It's not that you are trying yourself to. That is literally God working through you. And it's, and this might sound very stupid, but it's kind of like when it comes to a weight loss journey. You know, you crave all this food before your weight loss journey, right? You're craving all this food, and you have like the foods that you crave, and then you have the foods that give you the ick. And then when you go into the transition is a little wonky. It's a little hard. You don't really want to do it, but it's something that you're kind of in a way like pushing yourself to do because you know it's good for you. And then eventually you get to this place where now the food that you used to crave gives you the ick. And now the food that was really healthy and good for you, you now crave. It's all that you want. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's the best way that I can describe it. It's natural. And so walking with Christ has been something that, yes, I am still actively doing. I am still learning something about him every single day. But what has been really cool about this experience is that when you read something and you really break it down, it is so powerful the way that your mind retains it. And I'm not someone that has a good memory like that. Like, I got a decent memory, but I don't have a good memory. A lot of times I have to look something up multiple times before it sticks. But there is something so powerful, which I think we all know what it is, but something so powerful about the way that when you read something once and you just really lean into it, how much it just stays with you. So every single day as you're reading and you're doing, it's like these dots are all just connecting in your head and everything is now just fully making sense. So when it first came from this place of, I had known nothing, it turns very quickly to, wow, now I understand. Now I get it. Now I see him. Now I know him. And so, yeah, finding Christ has changed my life. I am now so passionate about talking about him. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. I literally can't. It's all I want to do. It's all I want to say. Every time I start making a reel that's about weight loss or health, I somehow start transitioning it into talking about him. So yeah, if you're listening to this, I know that we're on some form of journey. And I just have to say that I hope that this has gave you a little bit of some calmness in the way that you can go about it. There's no rules on the way that you start this relationship with Jesus. There's no right or wrong way to go about it. Anyways, guys, I just want to say I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for supporting me. And I'll see y'all Tuesday. Bye.